KVS Sharma. Dr. KVS Sharma is the Vice Chancellor of Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad, India. He has worked as Professor of Law in the prestigious Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad, for more than 13 years. He was a Consumer Law Chair Professor, a Ministry of Consumer Affairs appointment at Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad. He was the head Center for Consumer and Competition Law and in charge LLM, Corporate and Commercial Law. Presently, he is a member. Okay. Presently, can you hear me?
Awas come.
Yes, ma'am.
Surabhi, just find out. Yes, who is this?
Yeah, so I removed her. There was someone, Shreya. I removed her.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Presently, Dr. Sharma is a member and legal expert, Stem Cell Research Committee, Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences, Hyderabad, Member Board of Studies, Tamil Nadu Ambedkar Law University, Chennai, Member Board of Studies, ICFAI Law School, Hyderabad, Member Academic Council, United World Law College, Gandhinagar, and Member Advisory Committee, Dr. Aram Learning Center, a constituent of the National Council for Rural Institute, Ministry of Human Resource Development, New Delhi. He is a visiting faculty at the International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution, Hyderabad, the National Academy of Direct Taxes, Nagpur, National Academy of Construction, Hyderabad, International Institute of Insurance and Risk Management, and Water and Land Management Training and Research Institute. He is also the recipient of the Best Teacher Award from the state government of Telangana. Dr. Sharma, may I request you to deliver the keynote address now?
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Respected Rao Saheb Bhaveskar, Director, Water Policy Center, Aurangabad, India. The organizers of this particular conference, particularly I am thankful to Dr. Rao Saheb Bhaveskar for inviting me to address this August gathering. Today, the organizers allotted the topic, Challenges in Governing the Education Sector During the COVID Crisis. This is the topic they allotted, and 15 minutes time I have. The mankind has witnessed numerous catastrophes in history, including calamitous outbreak of diseases. However, the enormity of the hazardous impact of coronavirus and uncertainty of finding an antivirus has created havoc among people, administration, and the government worldwide. The rapid spread of the virus has left us with no way out but to seek safety and isolate ourselves in the confines of our respective homes. Educators, administrators, service providers, parents, and students around the world are feeling the extraordinary ripple effect of the novel coronavirus as schools shut down amid the public health emergency. Like every sector, education is suffering at all levels. According to UNESCO report, as of March 23rd, over 1.3 billion learners are out of school due to coronavirus. The closing down of schools will not only impact students, teachers, and parents, it will also have far-reaching economic and societal consequences. As per the Ministry of HRD, Government of India, 11.59 crore children of the country are enrolled in the midday meal scheme. This indicates an additional burden on the parents of the children to provide them food. The uncertainty will have an impact on the delay in fee payment of the students, which will directly impact the revenue generation of respective educational institutions, in turn affecting the financial condition of the educational institutions and impact the salary flow of teaching and non-teaching staff in the long run. It is indeed a challenge for the educational institutes and the teachers on how to reach out to students and ensure continuity education through remote learning. There are millions of students from various economic segments of the society, and most of them do not have access to computers or the internet. Am I audible, madam?
Yes.
Doordarshan can dedicate a channel for K-12 education focusing more on concepts and hand-on experimentation with scheduled time allotted for each class. It can be replicated in DD regional channels so that there is no language barrier in the learning process for children. Similarly, radio can act responsibly and educate children through talks. The government could devise new policies to help the education sector to set up technology infrastructure for helping in preparedness during and untoward incidents. The pandemic has significantly disrupted the higher education sector as well, which is a critical determinant of country's economic future. A large number of Indian students, second only to China, enroll in universities abroad, especially in countries worst affected by the pandemic, the US, UK, Australia, and China. Many such students have now been barred from leaving these countries. If the situation persists in the long run, a decline in the demand for international higher education is expected. The bigger concern, however, on everybody's mind is the effect of the disease on the employment rate. Recent graduates in India are fearing withdrawal of job offers from corporates because of the current situation. A multi-pronged strategy is necessary to manage the crisis and build a resilient Indian education system in the long term. Open source digital learning solutions and learning management software should be adopted so teachers can conduct teaching online. The Diksha platform with reach across all states in India can be further strengthened to ensure accessibility of learning to the students. In India, state governments are the largest providers of education. However, they are plagued by several challenges, including large student-teacher ratios, infrastructure, and lack of quality training among the teachers. Private schools too face a problem with teacher training. These challenges combined with India's huge education market size, where 35% of its 1.3 billion population below 15 years of age present an immense business potential for EdTech products to scale up by plugging gaps. There is a huge digital divide in urban and rural schools. In a recent survey, over 75% of students are impacted due to the lockdown as they found hard to study online. Over 80% students said they need a hand holding to shift from offline to online, and over 25% said they need proper training to pursue education through online. BharatNet is connecting all the villages with high-speed broadband network. Part of the project connecting remote areas in Northeast India is already complete. Ensuring digital connectivity, therefore, may be easier. States like Tamil Nadu have started distributing tabs to students for studies. The situation is opposite in vernacular languages that dominate the Indian school education scene. Only a few EdTech firms provide vernacular content. COVID-19 has created many challenges and opportunities for the educational institutes to strengthen their technological knowledge and infrastructure. ePathshala is an e-learning app by NCERT for classes 1 to 12 in multiple languages. National Repository of Open Educational Resources portal provides a host of resources for students and teachers in multiple languages, including books, interactive modules, and videos, including a host of STEM-based games. Swayam is a national online educational platform hosting 1,900 courses covering both school and higher education in all subjects, including engineering, humanities, social sciences, law, and management courses. Swayam Prabha has 32 DTH TV channels transmitting educational contents on 24/7 basis. EPG Patasala is for the postgraduate students. Postgraduate students can access this platform for ebooks, online courses, and study materials during this lockdown period. Indian education system got the opportunity for transformation from traditional system to a new era. The pandemic situation induced people to learn and use digital technology and resulted in increasing the digital literacy. This pandemic has also made people realize how dependent we are on so-called low-skilled workers to keep our lives going. During shutdowns, lockdowns, curfews, it is these workers who are on the front lines working multiple shifts to maintain delivery and take care of our basic needs. Technology can be an important tool to facilitate distance learning in the short term. However, it is essential to understand that is a temporary solution that can never replace classroom teaching and learning and the invaluable face-to-face interaction between the teacher and student and among students. Particular attention should be given to teachers and students in rural, remote, and marginalized areas. India has 300 million kids enrolled in about 14 million schools. Almost 70% of the schools are run and managed by government bodies. This fact indicates that India and
Survey.
Yeah, sir, I removed her.
Yeah, you must go ahead. Sir, please.
This fact indicates that India and its education system are in a major crisis given the circumstances in which 300 million children are being impacted by COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. The 75th report of National Sample Survey Office of 2017-2018 gave grim picture that may hamper the transition of classroom mode into online mode of education in India. It says the all India percentage of households having internet facilities with rural availability at 14.9% and urban at 42%. The report also further reveals that the percentage of people who can use internet with rural areas accounting to 13% and urban 37.1%. And only 10.8% of the people in India used internet in the last 30 days. This statistics depicts that if we are to use internet as a means to educate students, will be left out. In India, statistics says that 26.1% of the population above 15 years is illiterate, 18.9% only attended up to primary schooling, 16.2% each have studied only up to 5th class. This shows that 77.4% of Indians are not in having intellectual capacities to teach their children at home. The situation in the rural areas are even worse, with 69.6% of rural population being in the category of not literate to primary schooling. The trauma associated with COVID-19 can be devastating to students and educators, some of whom might have lost a loved one or a colleague. Government should therefore ensure the provision of psychosocial support, including counseling, services to all affected students, teachers, and education support personnel in order to ensure their well-being, including mental health. COVID-19 has struck our education system like a lightning bolt and shaken it to its core. Just as the first industrial revolution forged today's system of education, we can expect a different kind of education model to emerge from COVID-19. What Professor Yusuf said is right. Money is not everything. Health, mental peace, and happiness, these three are very, very important factors. For that, we should have good training, yoga training like that. We should first give training for mental peace. With these words, I want to conclude my talk. I am thankful to the organizers once again for giving this opportunity. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Sharma sir, for your observations on the way the pandemic has impacted education at all levels. Your suggestions to meet these challenges are most welcome, sir. Thank you. And now I invite everyone to join the discussion. We may discuss both Sharma sir's observation on the effects of the pandemic on education, including the various e-platforms provided. Are these challenges actually being met? What those difficulties are? Because many of us are in the education sector, and we do know that there are challenges, and they're not equally available for all. Also, I would like you to comment on Professor Yunus's observations on the new world. So, Professor Sharma, can you kindly give us a little more time for us to engage in a discussion on your talk?
Yes, madam. No problem.
Just inviting others. Now, may I now ask Neeta Sanghi to comment on Professor Yunus's presentation? Neeta Sanghi.
Thank you, Dr. Unni. Thank you for giving this opportunity to talk about Professor Yunus's presentation.
You're not audible. You're not audible.
Hello, can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
yes, yes.
All right, okay. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about Professor Yunus's presentation. As was expected, he indeed brought a great many important points to our attention. I think he spoke about inequalities, which is very critical, which we are seeing every day in every way, getting increased due to this pandemic. And being the person that he is, he spoke about selfishness. So he brought this whole moral perspective to the pandemic, which generally doesn't get discussed much. And he also said that, I think what I liked best about his presentation was that he ended on a very hopeful note. He said that human beings are much more than mere selfishness. It is just that the system which is around us, the corporate system which is around us, has, made us selfish, and we can rise above that. His call to not hanker for going back to business as usual, or going back to the world as usual as it was before the pandemic, I think is the most critical message that we should take from him, and consider the pandemic as an opportunity to course correct. So yeah, it was a very great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta, madam. May I now request Professor Smorgunov. Professor Smorgunov, my old friend. I'm so happy to see you here all the way from Russia. He's the head of Political Governance Department, St. Petersburg University, and he has been so kind enough to not only be present, to bring a whole lot of colleagues from the university to participate in the various teams. Thank you very much, sir.
Yo, thank you so much for
So we are looking for some general observations on the education system and how the COVID has impacted the education system. For example, the challenges that you are facing in the online platforms and various other ways in which you communicate and disseminate and with the students. General observations on in Russia.
Yes. Do you hear me? Yes. Thank you so much for invitation to participate in this good conference. And I think the problems that was posed the Professor Sharma and Professor Yunus is very important. Because the first question is really, could we live now in new worlds, or we need back to the old world concerning the coronavirus situation? So I think really there is the problem between this imagination about new worlds. what the characteristics of this new world. I think we need to pay attention to some general features of this new world. And first, this is international coordination of the all countries, of the all people to protect our lives in this new world. For this, we need to construct new institution, political, social, moral institution to be forward to the situation of a new pandemic or new challenges that we will have in new world. This new institution must be very careful about human life, and I think the philosophy of care for human must be forward in this direction, and we need to think about how can we protect our human life in different directions. That means also security world, and then we need to pose forward the question about how can we secure our world. This is not only the question of war, but this is the question of our nature also. This is the question of our moral also. This is the question of our relations between people. This is very important questions. How can we protect our world and how can we construct protective institution for this new world? And maybe last question is, of course, a new world must be collaborative and must be justice. It must be justice. And I think we need joint all forces for construction of these institutions, And this must be joint efforts of the countries, people, and different international organizations. And I think our community, the scientists, must be forward also in the construction this new understanding and new institutions. Concerning the education, I think Professor Sharma has made a good presentation. In Russia, we have the same situation. Now we have distance learning in the universities. Sometimes we have distance learning in school, in secondary school. So we use some different platforms, but I think there is the problem of quality of education, because real contact, real speeches, real discussion. This is very important for construction, for building not only explicit, but tacit knowledge. And I think we have some limits for construction, for building tacit knowledge during online platform. So I think the future world will be combination of digital technologies and real personal relations inside university life, I think the young persons are more suitable for the digital technology than professors, and I think during university life now we need change our methodic of teaching, our tools for teaching, because simple speaking through Zoom or through Microsoft Teams, this is not good for a young generation, and we need change. But how can we need change this? For this, we need maybe exchange our experience for the education system. for the education, for the teaching some courses, lectures, seminars, practical training courses, and so on and so on. So thank you so much for invitation, and I think that our conference will be helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Leonid. And we are looking forward to the technical session again, where you will be speaking. As you've pointed out, I think all of us, most of us here who are teachers will agree that nothing can really replace the student-teacher direct contact, especially at the primary education level. Thank you, sir. May I now request Professor Liaquat, sir? Is he on? Professor Liaquat Khan, who is the mentor and supporter of the WPC. May I please have on screen Professor Liaquat Khan?
Sir,
yes.
Answer.
Yes, madam.
Answer. We're looking for your comments on Sharma sir's observation on education as well as Yunus on credit. Yeah.
See, the speakers have actually, Professor Yunus has actually talked of different communities do exist in the modern world. And with that modern community, there are also a local community which exists. And they exist in every neighborhood groups. And these neighborhood groups are also a type of political association which are happening all over the world. And thereby you see each transnational movements and scientific associations are recreating their own world. And when we say recreating their world, we are trying to put ourselves in such a situation that we cannot go back. We do not have a train which can go back, but it has to go further. And there the world is waiting for us to, and that is where what I personally think is Professor Yunus also was hinting us that politics is not just about getting or snatching away the resources, but also politics is also about sharing the resources. The more the states share resources, the more easy the world is. Because until the world tries to remain into a peaceful methodology, if they do not learn to live in peaceful way, it will be an other side world. It will be a conflict world. And do we really want to have that conflicts? And thereby you see that this is where a lot of communities come into picture. There are communities which are now trying to go beyond pandemic. They are trying to converse with the other communities so that their problem.
Mute.
Maybe some technical issue and automatically has left.
Yeah, now we can hear you. We can hear you now. We can hear you, Mr. Bavaskar.
Yeah, but sir, I think because of network issues, sir has automatically left the meeting.
Yeah. So everyone is free. I'm calling on.
Okay. Okay. Answer is there still. Answer is there.
Fulufelo, is he there? He's also from the field of education.
Yes, but okay. Answer is there. Let him continue.
Yeah. Answer can continue, but meanwhile, I'm asking Fulufelo Nestuera. Are you there? Are you there, Professor?
No.
He's not there. Okay.
Professor Joanna is there. Professor Joanna is there.
Yes, she's also
from education. She's from education.
Give a brief introduction of Professor Joanna and where she is from.
I'm just.
Professor Joanna, are you there?
Yes. Professor Joanna?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. For me, it's night. It's just past midnight. And I'm thinking, do I stay up all night and then stay up all night tomorrow? I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, and I am now living in Belize. And tomorrow I talk on this issue of education, looking particularly at teacher education. So I don't want to give away my my speech, but it really is interesting to hear Russia, India, the same kinds of challenges, big countries, little countries, all faced with how do we teach our young people, our infants, our early childhood. That really is an issue to grapple with. And my talk is focuses on reimagining, and probably the time is right for us to think differently about how we do mass education. So I am looking forward to continuing to hear the rest of the discussion, because at the level of education, we are all involved in tertiary level education. And so how do we embrace the technology but still maintain that personalization? For my own practice as a teacher educator, I have found that even if I'm using the technological tools, I certainly have to deliver my education in a more individualized way to help each student overcome the barriers of being online. So that is certainly something that I'm doing. I have literally half-an-hour meetings with every single student, just in the absence of that face-to-face communication, to help them feel that they are not isolated. So that would be my comment, and I certainly look forward to participating in the presentation. I'm really delighted to be here.
Thank you very much, Professor. We are looking forward to hearing you again at the technical session on education. I just want to make my comments here. There is a question from Royston D'Souza to Professor Smorguno. I don't know if you're ready to take that up. In the comments section, you can see that
it is not a presentation of Professor Leonid. So this question
yes,
is
so
not
for me, I am now write the answer or for the
you can do that. That's fine. That's
okay.
I just want to make a comment about the challenges that we face in India. While we just heard what the earlier professor commented about individual attention of about 30 minutes for every student. You know, in India, we have an average of 60 to 70 students in a class at the primary level. And so the idea of giving 30 minutes to one individual student is next to impossible. So there are many new ways that are coming up. The lack of infrastructure in certain rural areas has led to certain innovative practices. For example, in our state of Maharashtra and Cholapur, the teachers, along with the help of the public, began writing answers and lessons, painting them on the houses, on the walls of the houses in the villages. I'm sure all of you read about this. Okay, so this, of course, it's not a permanent solution. It's a one-off thing, but people are coming up with new ways. The police, for example, in Maharashtra, are also standing in as teachers. Social workers are standing in. So this has definitely led to a paradigm shift, and all stakeholders are now being involved. Okay, what I'm most concerned about is the impact at a primary level, because here the children do need a face-to-face, and in the absence of face-to-face interaction, what we can do to ensure that the quality of education does not fall down is what we are all concerned about, and hopefully we'll get new suggestions which we can actually implement in countries that do not have the required infrastructure. We are open to more comments for another 10 minutes, after which Nita can give the vote of thanks.
No, Professor Fulu is there. Professor Fulu, welcome to this session.
I have asked him already. Yes, please invite him.
Yeah, he just joined. Right.
He's also from the field of education.
Yes, if you wanted me to comment, I could do that.
Yes.
Well, I didn't listen to the entire talk, but I think it's worth commenting on relating to education, specifically if we're talking about the effect of COVID on education. And if I'm talking higher education specifically, with reference to trends globally, one would say it has played different roles for different nations. It has disadvantaged some nations, specifically those nations where they don't have good access to infrastructure. I'm talking about computer and electronic infrastructure to continue with the facilitation of tuition and learning. But for those nations that have got good infrastructure, this has been, it has electrified the massification of electronic learning. And I've seen also in developing nations that this has become an equalizer. So nations that were left behind have tried their level best to quickly come on par with all other nations that are a bit advanced. So yeah, there is a debate about whether or not COVID in higher education and in basic education still was good or bad. In other fronts, in other sectors, it has played a devastating role, I can say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, Professor Bhaskar, there are no more comments? I think sir has answered.
No more.
No more comments. Then we can move on to the technical session after the vote of thanks.
Yes. But for the next technical session, we have a different link and different ID because we are the odd and even rooms. So this is odd room session, and the next technical session, which will be beginning at 12 o'clock, that will be on even room.
Neeta will now give the vote of thanks. Neeta.
Thank you, Dr. Unni. So as we come to the end of this session, it's my great honor and privilege to present a vote of thanks on behalf of the Water Policy Center, the NAS Ratnam College, and the Professor Yunus Center. Once again, our gratitude and thanks to Professor Muhammad Yunus for gracing this occasion. His presence has actually given, a great impetus to our dialogue. Sincere thanks to esteemed Professor Dr. KVS Sarma, Vice Chancellor, Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad. Sir, you have given a great perspective to the various inequalities which have, become more prominent due to this digitalized teaching. And I'm sure that the many speakers who will come in the next 2 days and touch upon this subject will be, more inspired with that. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to the friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, and different organizations who have helped to put this dialogue in place. Deep sense of appreciation for the audience. So many of you are here to listen to us, and we hope that you will continue to be with us for the next 2 days too. I would also like to thank Mr. Bhaskar and Dr. Unni for giving me this opportunity to present a vote of thanks. And finally, I would actually like to thank the unknown, innovators who first developed the internet and then developed all this webinar and all this technology, which helps us to be in touch with each other, helps us to be with each other, even when we are not with each other, and which helps us to bring forward this kind of dialogues. So thank you to everyone, and humble request to be with us for the next